previously on Supa-Saturdays Draw-Along.
That's why I love to draw, and I wanna create Supa-Saturdays, Supa-Saturdays, Supa-Saturdays Draw-Along.
Yeah, keep it coming. Keep it happening. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, again to Supa-Saturdays Draw-Along. It's 1 a.m. Eastern. If you're watching, got a few people watching already. Nice one. Where I am, I'm in Singapore. It's actually 1 p.m. Okay, it's a bit after 1 p.m. I'm a bit late. The clock in the living room is a bit slow, and I forgot that. That's my excuse. Well, welcome once again to Supa-Saturdays Draw-Along. And this is the month of August. We've called it Auspicious August. Remember last month? It was the month celebrating the launch of my book, How to Draw Characters from the Thunder Zone. And this month is Auspicious August, where we're going to be focusing on godlike characters, or very important characters. There's certain traits that you look at for a character which makes them seem very regal, very big, so to speak. And I'm flying totally by the seat of my pants. we're going to create a character today. I've done no preparation for this. We're just going to make this up as we go along, and we're going to put into position a few of the hallmark things of regal characters, or auspicious characters. So it's Supa-Saturdays Draw-Along. Get your pencils, pens, styluses, brushes, whatever. At the ready, we're going to start with the pencil. And what's the order of the day? When I'm talking about pencils, if you're a regular here, what's the battle cry to using a pencil? Does anyone know? Okay, I'll help you out. Keep those pencils light. Yeah. Keep those pencils light, baby. All right, so hang on. Let's make my canvas bigger. And I've disappeared. The world's worst producer. So here we are. Ooh, I'm not even set in the mood. Hang on a second. Let me play my customary background music. This is my remix of an old track by a guy named Don Carlos. Or Don Carlos. So here we are in Clip Studio Paint, and it's Auspicious August. So we're going to create a character that is in some way kind of important, larger than life, godlike. So let me get my pencil, set the black, and as customary, remember what we always do here. We always build up from a skeleton. So I call this layer, SK. If you're a regular here, you know the way I work, SK as in skeleton. And let's start to build up our real character. And we've got a comment in. Hey, yo, what's up? That's Pop. The producer emeritus is in the house. So I better be on my best behavior. So here we go. Okay, I'm going to create a male character. We'll explore a female later this month. So let's do a male character. So the first thing we want to get right is the stance. So I'm going for a full length. Let's draw in red, shall we? I'm going to go for a full length creation today, yeah? So let's draw the head. Now remember, because a regal character, we would more readily think that, whoops, I think I can draw a bit bigger than that. Come on, boy. Give them their money's worth. Zoom in. Let's draw a bigger head, shall we? I remember one of the first things that you have to learn when you're building a portfolio is making sure your characters fit on the piece of paper. So let's have a quick look. But I tell you what, I'm giving him a big headpiece. So his head can't be, I was naughty there. That's a bit too big. All right, let's go for this. So I cheated there. I'm drawing digitally so I can resize. Apologies if you're drawing traditionally and I made you start out the wrong size. I take full responsibility for that. I'm very, very, very sorry. Right. So I'm going to drop in the neck here. Now, we got a regal character. So I'm going to give him pretty broad shoulders. We put in the nodes for the shoulders. And I'm going to give him, when you're a regal character, you must stand up with your chest out straight. So actually, you know what? I'm going to straighten his neck a bit more. I'm going to straighten his neck a little bit more and drop his shoulders down slightly. Now he's going to be a big guy. He's going to be a tough guy. So let's see. I'm so busy in action poses. I'm going to drop his head back slightly, right? So there. Now, can you see? We're already getting our character to raise his head, right? As I said, we're making this up as we go along, yeah? So as I was saying, when you're drawing a regal, when a character is very confident, they tend to stand with their chest out, right? So I'm going to give him a barrel chest immediately. And let's position our camera a little bit low. So I'm not going to shape hips like that. That would designate that we're looking down on the character. Let's keep those hips a little bit straighter so our eye line is lower in the frame. Yeah, let's go Salvasima. And lower that camera. Salvasima was the master of the low angle, right? So here, so we're gonna have one leg. Now, we want to make, generally speaking, a spine is about the same length as the upper leg. So I'm gonna shorten that slightly. So here's the lower leg, sorry, the upper leg. And a strong stance is legs apart. So here's the lower leg. So I'm going to put one hip here, another hip here. And we've got a slight rotation up on our character, haven't we? So put the underpants in here. And let's lock that knee. Here's one knee. So we need to lock this other leg here. And as I said, a strong stance is legs apart. Now remember, as we'll find in my book, we can designate different things by skeletons or shapes. And something that I like to do is I have rounded triangles and rounded diamonds to roughly designate a foot from a skeleton. So that's just a basic shape, right? There's no great detail going into it. Good, now that stance is looking pretty good. Now I just want to shrink his head slightly. So he appears to be a little bit taller. So let's shrink that head slightly. It's quite scary, right? At this kind of scaling, just a few millimeters can make a huge difference. So we're getting a regal character going, right? It's auspicious August. And I want to give him a weapon. So how should we make him hold his weapon? Let's think about this. You know what? I'm being very authentic here. I'm not looking for the easy way out. I'm going to make him hold his weapon in a way that I've not done in many years. So let's say, for example, no, I don't think. No, let's go. Should we put two hands on the weapon? No, let's Supa-Saturdays Draw-Along. So would it help if I did something that's a bit complex to do? All right. Let's say, for example, if he's holding his weapon going across his body. So as I always explain, draw the prop first. Right? So let's say, for example, if he has like a large staff of some kind, and it's going to have an elaborate design on it. So what you do is you draw the prop first, then you attach the limbs to it. So that would mean one hand is reaching down here. You're going to see how this could affect the anatomy. Okay, if an arm is down here, that's going to cause this shoulder to drop. Got that? Nice. And this hand is up here. He's gripping the weapon. So that tells us that this hand, but of course, this depends on how you want to foreshorten it. So I'm going to take this elbow out, elbow, and we can curve that forearm around there. So you can see the stance is building up already. So here's one wrist, here's another wrist, and then elbow about here. Remember, elbows bite into rib cages, so that can help you gauge where an elbow is. It is a bit tough when you're building up anatomies, the length and size of limbs, etc. Now, something I like to do when building a skeleton inside a shape, remember we did the skeleton just now for the feet, and then we put a shape around it, didn't we? So what we can do here is we can put the basic skeleton of the fingers inside of the fundamental shape of what we got. That gives us a fist there. And here again, know the basic shape of your limbs. And that gives us a set of knuckles of somewhere around here. And the thumb is going to poke out here. Good. So there we got a basic fundamental stance. Look at me, drawing my marker ribs, etc. We got one prop going in here. And one thing that I definitely know that I want our guy to have is a big cape. Now here's where I get controversial, right? Let me put on my Neil Adams cam. This is when I get up close and personal with you, right? Here we go. What I'm going to say is that when you're drawing a stance, if you don't get the skeleton right, the rest of the detail is probably going to be wrong, okay? So I wanted to make sure of that. Always check your fundamental stance. So here, we've got this going on. And from this point, I'm going to designate his cape. There. I'm treating the cape as a major part of this character. And I'm going to give him a big headgear as well. But I'm not going to get into that yet. You know what? We can touch on that, you know. Okay, let's have a look. Let's do something a bit Galactus-like, yeah? So not exactly the same, but we've got a rotation in the head here, so we've got to be careful. So we can start to designate, roughly speaking, the center of the face and the eye line. So now we know where the front of the face is, and if he's got bits and pieces coming from the side of his head, we need to know where the side of the head is. Now this one is closer to us, so it should be a bit bigger, and it's going to be at a slightly different angle. Okay, that's giving us a rough guideline of where to go from. So that's our skeleton. Let's check our stance. Okay, he's looking pretty regal. Now let's get to fleshing out. F-O for fleshing out. And I'm going to do this in blue. So first of all, let's have a look at the neck. Remember, we got a lot of stuff to put on this guy during the course of this session, right? But we're going for the fundamental body. Look at the size of that neck. God damn. Our man is stacked. And of course, it's lats. And when I flesh out, But as I say in my book, the more you know about anatomy, of course, the easier everything comes. And what I do is I'm building up the cylinder for the body. So that's the arm socket, and the back of the body comes in here and comes down here. And here again, this arm is now coming towards us. Don't worry, we're going to get into our trajectories in a moment. His body is going to come down here. He's doing a Charlton Heston. He's sucking in. You know, anyone out there seen Planet of the Apes, the legendary one with Charlton Heston? I think maybe he was a few pounds overweight, and he was what I call sucking in for almost the entire movie. Don't worry. We're all busy. We're all guilty of sucking at some point, especially when you get to my age. All right, so now this arm, it's kind of behind him, but it's coming towards us. So let's put, remember, joints, smaller than over limbs. Yeah. So this is join his arm here. And this part is slightly behind. Now let's put the forearm. There's the bottom of the forearm. If you're drawing along at home, do let me know if you're struggling with any part in particular. One thing that I'm going to do, one thing that I've done there that I actually want to change, I want to relax. I want to relax this arm a little bit more. So I'm going to take the lower arm over to the left slightly. A bit of foreshortening going on here. It's a bit brutal. Okay, so that allows us to put the arm slightly behind the body now. I relaxed that forearm. Remember, basic shapes here. Our guy is not tremendously buff enough, right? But we got some interesting stuff to put on him soon. Wow. A few of you are in here already. I thank you very much. Thank you very much for tuning in. So here, brutal foreshortening. Very brutal indeed. Here, to round this off. And here is the, let's take this bicep out slightly. There is the end of the shoulder coming down. There's a shoulder going in. Nice. Good for nice, as my son would say, in his own style of English. So let's put in the underpants. Now remember, I'm going through a lot of construction here because this is Supa-Saturdays Draw-Along. And I want you, as much as possible, to get into the shapes of things with me, because shapes rule. And once you have a good, keen understanding of fundamental shapes, life is much easier. Okay, so here's a knee. And I'm going to lock that knee. So I'm going to put the bulk of the upper leg over here. Again, bit of anatomical shaping going in. God damn. This brother's got some big thighs there. And this shows again the camera angle. We're slightly looking up at our guy. Now, by the time it gets down here, we're kind of almost looking down on the foot. So we're going to make this intersection a bit more shallow. And we take out the outer foot and it comes in. This is quite John Batima, what we're doing here. Good. And this leg is slightly going away from us. So let's lock that knee. Let's put the volume really over there. There's the inner leg. And we make sure that thigh comes in and locks that knee. I'm kind of looking down into this leg now. So the lower leg is here. Big calf. And this leg, this foot is slightly, well, feet are always foreshortened, yeah? And that's what makes them particularly difficult to draw, because they are in a constant state of foreshortening, which isn't easy to get your head around. So here, I've left the hands to last because they're always the most interesting. Just bring that heel down. Because that heel is there and this foot is in front, this heel must be slightly lower, okay? Let's make sure his feet. I'm definitely not doing my best Gene Colan impersonation here. These feet are quite small, comparatively speaking. You know what, let's bring that foot around to the front a little bit more. Yeah, okay, that's better. And at this point, when we come to flesh out the fists, always make sure you know where the fundamental main parts are, right? So here, I like to raise my index finger. Okay, so I'm going to have that poking up. That's my influence from the master, Gilkane. And you want to make sure something here as well, right? That's very easy to overlook. When you're drawing a fist or hand holding something, you got to make sure that your fingers are perpendicular to the prop. If they don't have to be 90%, 100% perpendicular, but if they're not, it's going to look, it won't look like if your character is actually holding the prop. Now what we've got here, if we got some wrist movement, which is what I like. Right, so our prop is going in here. And it's going to come out there. So from here, what we will see that little part of the skeleton there? That's the thumb poking up. Now here, this hand down here is going to be slightly more straight. Let me get rid of this. So let's get our knuckles in first. And I've mentioned before on the show that I have a propensity to draw my index fingers too large. As you all know, the middle finger is the largest finger on the hand. But we all have something that I call an artistic footprint. Mine is a propensity to draw index fingers too large. And there is, remember the skeleton? We've got the thumb coming down here. Good. Yeah, our man is looking quite regal. Now let's reaffirm the head. And at this point, with the shapes, this is where we do something that I call finding the center of an object. Now we know the center of the face is here. The center of the neck, ideally to be there. Remember, there's a depth of body. So this is the center. We can see this. We know the center is going to be here between the legs. It's going to come up and it has to meet this. We have to do this, especially with this character, because he's going to be where I'm going to put some quite elaborate clothing on him. And we have to know where the center of everything is to make sure that really happens. It's the center of that fist and that forearm. Here we're into Spider-Man territory. Notice how Spider-Man's, when his arm twists, his costume and the arms can get very complex. And Steve Ditko did a masterful job on how he would have wrapped Spider-Man's costume around him. That is not easy what he did there. And let's get the center of the legs. I deem it to be about here. And again, here. Then we get the center of the foot, which I deem to be around here. And look at that. See that foot slightly rotated? The center of that foot is about there. We're going to come up here. And then here. Okay, good. And as we work through this, one of my trademark sayings here, what haven't I done? What should I do? I should save. If you're working digitally, please do the same. You please do that. Now checking on our character, once again, to make sure that you guys on the same page as me, so to speak. Our fleshing out, we did in light blue. So I'm using Clip Studio Paint. I'm going to make my layer the color of the food source. Now we come to something called dimensions, DM. And any of you regulars out there, you know that I always depict these in purple. So here's his face. We can say that the side of our character, the sides of his face are somewhere like there, side of his neck there. Look at the socket. The side of his body is about here. The side of the arm of this part is over here. There's a rotation at the elbow, which makes the inner inside of the arm switch over here. There, the back of his arm. There, and the in arm is about there. That's the side. Look at his leg. I would say the side of his leg. Whoops. Down here somewhere. Remember, you can never have more side here than you can here. Right? If you're doing that, something's wrong. That would mean the center of his leg is actually further over there. Right? So the side of his leg is somewhere over here. And the same with the inner thigh. I would say the inner thigh starts somewhere around here. Now remember, drawing is all about averaging, right? And that's why, as I often tell on this stream, if you can draw naturally without any lessons whatsoever, some doctors over the land down under in Australia has it down that you are officially on the spectrum. If you're one of those natural artists. Now, of course, you can learn how to draw. You can learn how to draw. You do not need to be born with the gift, so to speak. Next comes what I call trajectories or contours. Okay. TJ for trajectory. No, sorry, I put CT normally for contours. You get your own rules, boy. And I always depict these in orange. Let's have a look at the face. Let's have a look at the face. We know that the face is traveling somewhere in this direction. Now, something that I should have done. Naughty boy. In my fleshing out, I should have depicted where I envision to some great extent the eyes, the nose line, and the mouth. Now, of course, we can change this later. But the first draft, I'm going to put them somewhere around there. Good. About our contours. And the neck, we're slightly looking up at him. The neck is slightly tilted though. So I'm going to put the contour in that direction. Now the barrel chest. We put a contour. We're traveling in this direction. Same here. Side of the body. Make sure that your contours wrap around your figure. I know from looking at people's portfolios, one part that gives a lot of I'm a young artist, a bit of a challenge. I know this because I did this myself. Is definitely establishing the direction of things and sticking to it. Here's our bicep. That's a nice, that's coming towards us. And look at this. This forearm is heavily foreshortened. That is absolutely brutal. Truly brutal. We're still slightly looking at our character here. So his underpants, we can give a slight upward motion. Now this leg coming towards us. We can see from the contours here, we're following the joints. There, there, and there. And here, this leg is slightly going away from us. This is the depth of field, you could say. Down here. And I know when you're young, these sudden changes in direction can be a bit confusing. And here's our contours for our foot. And look at this. See, 1 minute, it's kind of going away from us, but then it goes past a point there. We've kept the bottom going away from us. You can have this going in this direction, but you see the foot here is going away from us. I established earlier that it's going to go over, coming towards us. Whereas typically, it would be going down like this. But we've got to be careful of that. It's actually like this. I hope that makes sense. Where that makes that leg come towards us just a bit more. Then here, over, and then there, at the front. We can come down. Good. Now, let's have a look at the weapon, shall we? So I'm going to come back to my fresh angle there. Should we put in a bit of design to the weapon? I say we should. Right, so let's have a look. What can we do? Now, this is Supa-Saturdays Draw-Along. So we can use the letter S as a bit of inspiration. Hang on a second. Bit of spam there. Right, so we can use the letter S as a bit of inspiration, shall we? Okay. So let's have a straight staff coming down here first. And as it comes out, let's say it curves. And we give it like an S top. Okay, so we're getting into props design here, you could say. Remember, draw through the object. That is going through the hand there. So let's take this down. Remember, basic shapes first, basic shape. We can elaborate, we can get this more elaborate as we carry on. Now, if you look at that, the angle of this hand makes this weapon slightly going away from us because this hand is in front. So the bottom will be something like this. So first of all, let's have a look at the top of the weapon. Remember, basic shapes always rule. Detail comes after shape. So I'm going to put in an S shape, and I'm going to make it become larger as it comes to an end. Now, imagine, here's where it gets complicated. Typically speaking, a person holding this will be holding this as a weapon. So can you see, I've drawn you the S shape as if we were looking at it from the side. But look at the rotation in his wrist. I'm thinking that if that was an S-shaped weapon, you would not see this S at that angle. What you're going to see is this. Can you believe that? I haven't saved this. I said save earlier, right? And I haven't saved it. What the? Hang on, let me go to my madness. We go to stream. No, go to Jerome. And we'll call this auspicious. Auspicious character. How about that? What an absolute... I'm going to have to do that again. I have to do that again because that's unforgivable what I just did.
Save!
I actually played it, it didn't save. What the? Right, so if you imagine this S from an angle, it's going to look something more like this. Understand? So we have to adjust the shape accordingly. So the first thing you can do is get a thickness going. And you slim it here to give it some depth of field. Good. We come up. Now we need a bit of perspective going on the last part. Just coming up and it's going down and it's going away from us. We're seeing slightly, remember we said we're looking down on it slightly. So this part will go down slightly. We're looking down on the S to some degree. I'm going to raise that a bit. I'm going to raise the top edge up and then drop it down. So it looks like we're looking down on it. A props design on the field. Good. That's better. Right. Good. Now we get some perspective going. Now this is also where to make sure we get our fit, the form. Now you see that? I don't like the way that's leaning. I want that to come over more. So that this thing is coming up over here. I want it to lean over more. Go up and over. Yep, that's better. Definitely. Random shaped objects, right? They have some sort of coherent form or it doesn't work. I was thinking of drawing Galactus, but I was thinking that's too easy because he already exists, right? So we're going through here exactly the process that you have if designing a complex character that's meant to be quite regal in his or her presence. Right, now look, I rounded the edge of this S shape, right? So let's say, for example, if we go to our dimensions layer and we get purple, so we define where the sides are. So let's say a side of this is here. And that's another side. And we're looking under the shape, we would see this. Then that would go up and kind of out of view here. And the underside will start to come into view there. Okay, does that make sense? And here, you might see a slight bit of an underside there. So if we come to our contours, and let's say we flatten it a bit, right? Just so we can look at form more. You can say, to build up your form, you could do this. It's almost like treating it like a mesh, if you like. Right, that's going up. There, right, the side contours, you can do like this, right? We spray them along the fascia of the flat part. And then from here, And this will help you build up your form, and you'll see why this sort of detail becomes very important later. Right, so that gives us a form to have the top of the weapon was kind of shaped like that. So we come at the fleshing out. Of course, we could put a handle. Whoops. We can give it a thicker body here. And same here. Maybe thicken down here. We can put a larger part here. And we can put a slightly thicker part here. You see parts here and then parts here. It's actually changing direction. So we're going to move that finger a little bit later on to make space for this. Now, the reason why these contours are interesting is that if we come back to fleshing out, and I'm not saying that our design will be like this, but you see, if you have these kind of shapes on the weapon, these contours help you. Whoops. One second. I'll put this one a second there. So if we make a line, you would then have the option to come in and shape parts of the weapon like this. And you can use your contours as guides how that kind of detail would come through, if that makes sense. Good. So now we're going to come to on the fleshing out layer. We can reaffirm the cape a little bit more, and we make the cape long. Then the funny thing is this, right? The bigger the cape, the more powerful the character. In fact, actually, you know what? This is wrong. He's not moving. I'm going to make the cape drop down vertically. We don't want too much movement in that because he stood motionless. Yes, this actually makes more sense. Yeah. And we make sure it's long. There. So now we can have a look at this headgear. We'll come to the fleshing out. So let's say, for example, we establish a shape on the side of the head, something like this. And there's one on the other side of the head, but we can't see it from here. Okay, so let's say, for example, inside of this, remember S, we're using the letter S as an inspiration. So from this side, you maybe see this. And then to make him look a bit aggressive, we'll put a point on this, shall we? Good. Now, before we go any further, let's make sure we understand the shape of what we've just done. So I'm going to say that this spike, this is the side. This is the side. So the bottom goes under like that. Okay, so now do I prefer that or if it's rounded? Okay, so let's stick with this. So now we come to the other side. So remember, it has to line up. So from here, if this point is about here, it's already coming up, and we're going to see it about here. And it goes away from the head. There. We need to go in about there. There. It's coming up already. And we know from this side, this part drops down, and always project roughly across. Take yourself a rough guide across to keep on track. So this we know lines up nicely there. And that one's leaning in quite a bit. So we're going to take this in just a little bit more. Then we take it out to meet that there. Now I'm going to say, please round that off a bit. Okay, that's our rough shape. And we go to the dimensions to make sure we've got the right shape. We know that this part in here is something like this. So it's a squarish kind of shape. That's the underside coming up here. Okay, that's the basic shape that we can go with for now. And we can add, let's add a little bit of a helmet to this, shall we? So the helmet has to encompass the earpieces. Remember, we're looking at basic shape first, yeah? So let's say if this drops down here, so it's gone past the chin. Now we're looking up at this. Take this across. So it's going down the side of the face. And that's going to have a certain volume to it. So is it encroaching in front of the eye? Probably not. And we can give the helmet. Okay, we won't make it a crown, but what we'll do is we'll go for a box kind of shape to make it regal. We're looking up at the head. So let's imagine it's a fundamental basic cylinder to start with. And let's say, for example, it's close to the eyes. So let's have the helmet come down close to the eyes here. We add a bit more to the top of the crown helmet. And now let's go up to the dimensions because we've got to make sure we know where the sides are. So here's the front. If we say that this is a side, if we wanted to have a fundamental shape, that the front is higher than the back, there, and maybe we put the shape of it, we could say it's wider towards the back and slimmer towards the front. So I'm going to make the front taper slightly less. And let's find the center of this headgear. There. Okay, good. So what else can we put on him? I like big shoulder pads, right? So let's put, a second. This is fleshing out. But I think it's time to start we go for a fleshing 2 layer. I want to make sure we keep on track with what I'm showing you, what we're doing. There. So I'm going to give him some quite large shoulder pads. So here they are. Whoops. Coming over the shoulder there. They come across near the chest plate area. Remember, we're looking up at this character. And I'm going to make it come off the shoulder quite some ways. There. And from here, of course, going in the other direction, this will go across in that direction. And it's going to go over the lats about there. And remember, continue that line over. You really keep your trajectories in line. If they go off, things can start to look very bizarre. Good. Now, what makes a regal character? A big belt. Right, so we come to the underpants area. I'm going to put in a line here. And I'm going to put in an oval here. Then I'm going to drop it down. We know where the center of the body is. And we can drop this down around the body. It comes on the back. We're actually getting into character design here as we make this up as we go along. If you're watching and you have a suggestion, just put it in the chat and I will try to incorporate it. Now, something that often looks quite regal as well is something that's not exactly, not a kilt, something hanging down. Right, and we know where the center is, so make sure that it's equal across the body. I'll put a slight taper to it. There. Put a simple pattern on the inside. Remember, this is just an absolute basic sketch. Good, now this comes out of the belt. I'm going to put right in the center. I'm going to put a massive jewel. This, what I'm doing here, is very Jim Starlin. And if you're out there know who Jim Starlin is, he's a character called Drax the Destroyer. But he's also in the Guardians movies, but in later incarnations in the comic, Drax became very different to what we knew him to be when back in the 1970s, my era of comics, you could say. Right, and I'm going to give our man a collar. That's going to make him seem quite kind of real. And a line across the midriff. I'm going to V. Just comes in, meet that line. Good. Now his cape, I'm going to make it so his cape attaches, actually his cape attaches to the shoulder guards. It's all one thing, so you can't actually see how it attaches, so to speak. Of course, you know, there's so much things that we can do here, right? And we're going into the basic shapes here. But I'm going to put in a jewel on his shoulder guards here. Make sure it's not too big or too small. Bring it over a bit. Yeah, good. And good. Now, how are we doing for time? Oh, we've got 1 hour left. Now, of course, I would love to make this drawing so complex, but I want to finish. I want to finish before we have to leave, right? So I'm going to have to control myself. Okay, I'm going to put a large shape on his crown, like a large jewel or something. And the reason I put the circle here, so this one can actually stick out. When things stick out, it gives a different kind of depth to what you're doing. Right, and we can put a pattern around these. I'm going to put a line going up. Pattern around these. Going around. I have to take this line, comes down here. On the visor. Goes on there. Taking a line across over here. This reminds me of a bit of a character that I designed for Flashback Universe some years ago. I had to design a bad guy named Ultrax. And this reminds me of that design, funny enough. Put some extra lines in these cogs here. Now, let's have a look. We'll put the face in after this. Let's put some gauntlets. Yep. Let's put a big glove. There, good. We put a thickness in that glove. There, this comes in front of the body. And we can put some basic armor on his arms there. They said, I really want to get carried away on this, but if I do, we're going to run out of time. And I want to do, for auspicious August, we want to try and get one drawing done every week. Yeah. So this is gauntlet there. And I do believe in things harmonizing in costumes. So here, I'm going to put a similar kind of shape. The leg. We've got our contours there that will help us put in leg gauntlets, for want of a better term. And I'm actually resisting not going full Gene Colan here. I'm making these things extremely large, but we never know. I might go full Gene Colan a bit later on. And I want to give him large platforms on his boots. to make him seem more menacing. I'll put a line over the front of the boot. Like I said, I'm controlling myself here. I'm not going into some extreme super detail. Right, for the underpants, put a line here. Go to the other side. And we're building up. So what do we do? Save! I am going to save this time. Now, you can see my computer stalling. It's saving, it's saving. Now, I think the one that's important is to have complex costumes. Yep. So as we complete this design, I may add things as we go along. So I'm going to put a couple of jewels in his staff. And a few contours on this. And we can stick a jewel on the back of the staff there. And maybe a spike on the edge as well. Now, looking at the fall of it, I'm going to add another kind of shape on it. We've got to make sure we keep it at the same perspective, of course. Good. And I'm going to have a spike coming off the top. Good. Right. So let's get into a rough sketch of the face. So he's going to be quite important. Top guy. So he's kind of looking down at us. And I'm going to go full Jean Boussima. I'm going to give him some eyeliner. He's quite kind of expressionless. Good. And should I give him some facial hair? Let's have. Okay, let's give him some eyebrows first. Gonna give a bit of face paint. And I'm going to give him a neat kind of beard. Okay. So now I think let's put a little bit more detail in this belt. So let's have a look at our basic character here. Right, is he looking auspicious enough? Let's get into some final rendering and we'll have a look. So first things first. Save! I'm right. If So I'm going to come in here, new layer, and I'm going to go straight to inking, man. God damn, right. So let's go straight to inking. So all my construction, I'm going to knock it back slightly, and I'm going to remember to zoom in today, because sometimes when I'm doing these streams, right, I'm not close enough to the action, I don't think, to make it more interesting for you guys at home. Right. So let's sort out what we're going to do first. So I've got 7 pixels. Let's do, whoops, we start, would help if I started with the correct color. So we're on the inks layer. And we come down smooth. I like thick and thin. Now this is organic. So I'm going to ink his headgear in quite a constant line, because, as I say, it's organic. It's inorganic. It's inorganic. God, Jerome, sort yourself out, son. Right now, as we do our Supa-Saturdays Draw-Along, you notice my inner contour here is lighter. Now, this is the corner. You want your inner contours, your inner lines to be thinner than your outer lines. So now we come to some of this stuff that we did. So that's outside. Now we come back to inside, so we go a bit thinner. And I'm going to put a little bit of thickness here for that pattern that we got going on. I'm going to come in again, thick again. And now outer helmet, a thick line, and we can see, because we're looking up, we're going to take that line behind his head. Here it is coming down the side of his face. So our character is quite tough. So we're going to give him quite a strong jawline. And we just decided he's going to have some face hair. And we're looking up at him. So it goes under the chin. Putting the vein detail. There's the bottom lip. And in old school comics, quite often, because the light source is coming from above, you can render the top lip actually in total darkness. And I've always liked the look of that. I always thought it looked very interesting. So here, just putting a few contours here for a bit of the hair texture. We've got a nose bridge coming in. Now, remember, we're slightly looking up at him, right? So this affected the contours of the face. And we have some face paint going on there. Now the face paint, because it is paint, notice that our key line is very thin. The mask coming in here. Sorry, not mask. Mask. What the heck is wrong with you, boy? It's a helmet. Now actually, because the helmet is going up, we will see a bit of a thickness there. There. So now he's a strong guy. He's got strong jaws. So then we want him, he's quite a serious character. he takes himself quite seriously. So we're going to slightly close those eyes. As I mentioned before, I'm going full John Buscema or JD Vance and give him some eyeliner. What the? Hold a second. And I'm guilty here. Zooming in so much. You know, sometimes when you zoom in on your drawing too much, right? You can make some terrible mistakes. You know, you got to make sure you keep a macro view of everything that you're doing. Right, like that is going down too much. And I feel, yeah, it's quite stoic. She's got those thick, low eyebrows. And if you want a character to look very honest, don't give him eyeballs. And I'm toying with the idea now of not giving him pupils. Okay, now we're looking up at him. So I'm going to exaggerate this arch. You know what? I'm tempted, when you've seen the effect there, right, of not putting eyeballs on him, work very, very nicely in me. But I'm going to give him eyeballs. Just for the exploration of, there's many different ways of drawing eyeballs, etc. But this is the single highlight one. I need to angle those eyes back towards just a bit more. Let's put the pupil. Let's put the highlight angled over here a bit more. He's looking down slightly at this. Close your eyes a little bit more. Good. Let's get this pattern going. So I'm going to put a bit of feel into that. Keep your patterns delicate, yeah? It's what you call inner detail. Okay, well, this is inorganic earpiece. Put a little thickness on that. And this part's coming in. And I changed the shape, didn't I? I made it more square. Remember, I got the late great Tom Palmer to ink an image for me. And he inked a fence with a brush. And I said to him, I love the way how you've inked that straight line with a brush. And it still looks so good. And his words to me were, that's because not all straight lines are straight. I thought that was absolutely profound. And he's 100% correct, of course. Right, now something that I've done here that's a bit naughty. I've made this spike too thin. See that? That is not the thickness of the spike on the other side. I made the other spike thicker. Yeah, I prefer that. I much prefer that. Now, something I did up naughty there. His neck. Got his neck. There. Good. Then his costume comes across here. Remember, in the detail, make it thinner. Funny, when you're inking, very often you will finalize a lot of things during the inking stage, which can be very satisfying. I'm going to give him an extra piece of inner. Oops. I changed something, didn't I? That's right. I made. See, this thing must be equal. I ignored my own sketch there. See, his collar has been equidistant from the center line. This is where you must always know where your center of an object is, or you can end up destroying your drawing. In there. Good. Go to the headgear. And we put that thickness into the pattern. And same there. Two patterns here and the jewel. And we put the inner part of the jewel with a nice thin line. Come up to the top, thickness there. Good. Now we get into the pattern. And it's funny, right? When you're making characters and props and all the rest of it. I'm going to make this like some kind of jewel. So we put the highlights in, thin line. There, bit coming over the top. There. I'm not being overly careful with my inking here, because we get the basic idea. I just want to make sure that we have one complete design done by the end of the session. And there, I like to make that pattern embossed. Same here. Whoops. Let's emboss that pattern slightly. And the other one goes around the corner. Do we see that? Yeah, we should see that, shouldn't we? So that one should be rounded. Whoops. That's better. So, shoulder pads. There's so much we can do with these, but as I mentioned, we keep it quite basic for now. So there's the outer contour. Let's give the jewel a surround, shall we? So we can do that. We come inside and give it this. Do the same the other side. Nice inner line. We make this thinner. Is that necessary? Is that necessary, Jerome Hinds? Okay, let's put a line down the center, shall we? Okay, do the same thing here. Put in an outer and go for an inner. There, get the thickness going. Now it's the edge of the shoulder pad, so it must be thicker. I said, as I'm racing through this, there's going to be some discrepancies. I can see, for a start, this shoulder pad on the left is wider. There's that. I'm talking about. I'm going to try to race through this, right? But I can't leave you so high and dry. I've got to fix that. A quick remedy of that. Try to check your symmetry, especially when you're dealing with mecha and characters of big props. Your symmetry is very easy to lose. That center line, okay. I'm going to buff his shoulder up a bit more. And see the contours on the armor that I roughly did? And then those inner contours, make them thinner. The armor. So now we come to the sun. With this kind of character, there's so much you can actually do to make him much more elaborate. And I'm going for basic rendering, basic inking. A lot of comics today are rendered in this way, in that they don't have all of the hatching and stuff that, you know, my generation was used to. You know, times change, styles change, etc. As I mentioned before, to get the weapon to fit in, I was aware that I would have to move certain things because I made the weapon thicker. So we're going to raise those knuckles. We're going to raise the knuckles to make room for the weapon. Because I chose to make the weapons a bit bigger. There. And that comes from underneath. So he's got big gauntlets going on, so you need to foreshorten that. Yeah, damn, that's brutal. Foreshortening. And a big cylinder. I'm not being terribly original here. This is very Iron Man. I'm sure a lot of you, all the viewers out there, probably caught that immediately. Especially me going on about Gene Colan. God damn. And what I often do, when I'm inking weapons and this kind of stuff, I often do it on a separate layer because you draw through the object and this makes life easier. So here, okay, I'm inking digitally, right? So I can do this and make sure I've got the right thickness. That'll do. And I'm going to draw from there straight to there on a separate. Whoops! Look at that. I'm talking about separate layers, and I didn't even create a separate layer. I'm going from bad to worse. There. And here. If you're doing this bit by bit as well, you've got to make sure that you keep your lines lined up. You know, your shape goes. If your weapon goes out of shape, you're dead. Okay, so sometimes you may have to adjust your hands, etc., etc. That's a bit big. That's a bit big. Calm down, boy. Calm down, boy. All right. Me talking drawing through the object, and I didn't draw through the object. What an absolute! Thank you from bad to worse, mate. Hang on a second. Hang on. Calm down, Jerome. I'm gonna make the handle this deep. Yeah, that'll do. And it's slightly going into a point because it's going away from us, right? So there's a little bit of perspective involved here. Got to be careful of that. There. Good. And I can make this a bit more simple. As I said, it's getting a bit excited earlier. We keep it simple. We keep it funky. Right, so let's just join it these bits. So we come down here. And this line is a little bit thinner. So I'm not going for maximum accuracy here because trying to beat the clock, so to speak. Now, what you can do is just put in some very simple detail like this. And then here, that'll do. Then here. Yeah. Good for nice. Then here, it's slightly changed direction now. We're looking up. We're slightly looking up at the weapon. Okay, not looking up that much. God damn. Get your trajectories right, boy. And here's where I'm going to do a bit of texturing. I'm talking about not getting carried away, but still being a bit dodgy. And normally this sort of detail I would put on a separate layer because for ease of digital coloring. But these little bits and pieces that you can put in can make a big difference to the feel of the weapon. said, they don't have to be 100% accurate, so long as the attitude behind them is happening. They can work wonders. Confusing myself there. The main thing to this sort of stuff is it's the thickness, the variations in line. If you get a decent variation of line going on, it can make a huge difference. You come in and whoops. Calm down, boy. And, whoa, look at me. I'm so busy drawing. I've not been doing any shilling. What makes me say that? Well, we have a regular viewer, Kerry. She's a regular here at the Madness Entertainment Group. And some of you may know, I've had a book released recently, a new art book. And she scolds me. She says, Jerome, why aren't you shilling your book? She's 100% correct, of course. And I've been here talking for an hour and a half. I've not even played the trailer for my book. So without further ado, first of all, we save. And let's have a look at my new book that's been released. Hopefully, I can win your support. I can see a few of you out there watching. Thank you very much. And here's a trailer for my new art book. Actually, is it here? Have I got it here? Yes, I have got it here. I've got a few different trailers. I'm not sure if this is the right one, but they're all pretty much the same. So take a look at this, and hopefully I can win your support.
Paying tribute and great homage to the United States of America on its esteemed 250th birthday comes How to Draw Characters from the Thunder Zone Activity Book, a 188-page activity book that launches on July 4th, 2026. Written and illustrated by Jerome Judge Hinds, president of the Association of Comic Artists Singapore, comes the ultimate tribute to the birthplace that brought to the world the splendor of superheroes and comic books. Jerome is a creator and senior editor at USA-based Thunder Zone Comics, and in the book, he shares with you the knowledge and methodologies of his work from over the past 8 years, all neatly wrapped up in a 10-chapter step-by-step tutorial. He covers full-length character construction, studies in hands and feet, secrets in foreshortening with props and weapons wielding, plus penciling techniques, inking, digital coloring, and even comic book cover layouts. It's all here and available in both soft or hardcover. And if you really can't wait to get your hands on the physical thing, there's always the digital guidebook edition available for pre-order now. How to Draw Characters from the Thunder Zone Activity Book, with Jerome Judge Hinds launching Independence Day 2026. Exclusively available from Amazon.com. And launched streaming live only on Madness Entertainment Group.
So you saw that and you heard that. Now, of course, that trailer is a little bit out of date because, of course, it's been launched. It's available already. So the thought of a pre-launch digital copy is moot. Yeah, they're all available now. And yeah, great fun doing that. And in the book, you'll find all of this sort of stuff through a lot of different exercises. I'm using the fundamental methodology that I'm doing with you here. Starting from a skeleton, fleshing out, and then going into detail. Now, if any of you are drawing along at home, see, we're now doing his auspicious staff. And remember, it started off as a cylindrical staff, but then I decided to make it more of a squarish. kind of S. We took the letter S because of auspicious August. There was a lot of S-ing going on there. So I thought I'd take inspiration from the letter S. And yeah, I'm not going 100% for accuracy here. Just a general feel of what's going on, man. Nice. Good for nice, as my son likes to say. And but the thing with this sort of detail is, even if it's not 100% accurate, it can have a nice feel to it. I remember the first time as a kid, I drew Dr. Octopus. And I think it was Steve Ditko that had drawn him. And the way he drew Doc Ock's arms, I thought was amazing. So here, let's go to the other arm. Oh, sorry. First of all, let's get rid of our drawings through the object. We don't need a star there. Remember, because I'm working digitally, I was able to draw these on a separate layer, yeah? And again, down here, I shall now draw this fist behind, goes behind, that raised index finger, a la Gil Kane. Master Gil Kane, man. In fact, I'm such a Gil Kane fanatic that in the foreword of my book, I actually call him out by name. I remember during the 1970s, Gil Kane used to do a lot of covers for Marvel. And his covers made me buy books that I had no intention of even reading. I bought them for the cover. Incredible. His anatomy is unbelievable. The best. Is that gauntlet? I said tonight I was very conservative. I didn't hit you with any of my G code dimensions. It's not for the faint-hearted. And it's a strange day. I can see I've got quite a few viewers, but no questions. Could there be a ghost in the machine? God damn. So here, on the contours in the armor, man, yeah. So here, we go back to this layer, and now we can erase the stuff. Drawing through the object just helps you keep things at the right trajectory, straight, basically. And few decoration lines here. Okay, good. So we put this guy up. Let's come to the waist area. And I have a kind of pattern coming down here. And what we could do, okay, this is belt. This month is dubbed Auspicious August, and all month we'll be drawing characters that look king or godlike. That's the theme for this month. Auspicious August. Man's got a big thick belt. No, I don't think I foreshortened that enough. Hang on. Let me render that again. Come over. Here. Nice. And remember, we're slightly looking up at him. And the patterns go into the belt. We're going for the main inking here. The main piece of detail. And I can't help thinking that I need to put in just some basic shading. Just so we get some textures going. So this is like metallic. Same here. There. And I'm going to put another stripe in here. Hang on. Put that there, put that there. Now we know where we're coming from, where we're going to. Yeah. Now, as you design a character, you're going to think about the parts of the character that are dark or light. And in fact, a lot of what I'm doing here, I'm imagining certain parts of this character in different colors already, although I'm not actually showing you that. But you want a character to have a certain amount of contrast about it. Hang on. I didn't get my trajectories right there. That's what I'll go over. I need to go upwards a little bit more. That's better. And there. And even like things like here, we put in simple accents. Remember that a lot of modern superhero comics don't have hatching anymore or spotting. Right? They just have detail like this. And all of the shading is taken care of by the coloring. But for those of you who've tuned in here regularly, you know that I'm quite old school. I tend to do spotting, as you call it. And hatching. In my book, you'll see there's chapters on spotting and hatching. But indeed, you'll find that in a lot of modern comics, this extreme line work is a thing of the past. Yeah. Put some sinews in those fingers, man. This is Jim Starlin style. do styling style. Now let's go for the costume part here. There, comes down here. Zoom in, boy. Then we have pieces in a pattern. Again, notice that in the inner pattern, the lines are thinner, right? And of course, you can put just some sort of pattern in here. Line up that one about there. See, these inner lines are definitely thinner, yeah? I'm going to put a thinner line inside here. You're making me feel very nervous. Got a few viewers here, and not one person said a word to me. Man, how can you treat a brother like that? Okay, I'm gonna put some armor on his legs. I think I should. I think maybe I should, yes. I'm going to put a contour here first. I just follow the contours. There. There. If my contours will match up on the other side. What a lazy artist. That means I'm going to go over there, and there should be one here. It's amazing. I didn't even put in my knees. Oh, there. Okay, the gauntlet boots. Gauntlet boots. Put a bit of texture in there. It's this that should really have the, oh no, it's not, this is correct. This boots very tough, metal-like. And we just have put a highlight on the edge of this boot. Give the soles a kind of thickness, accent on the inside. Okay, and now we have the inner leg. In my haste, I didn't even produce or finish crashing out where the knees were joined in. God damn. Terrible, Jerome. Terrible. Terrible. Okay, good. There was some dodgy inking here, mate. How are we doing for time? 10 minutes. Man. You have to fix holes. Almost there, people. Almost there. Auspicious August. Characters who look like if they're very regal. Here we are. That's some dodgy inking. What the? Okay, now find his cape. There's a tangent going on here. You see, it's going to touch his boot. Don't want things like that. So I'm going to take it away from his boot. Whoops. You gotta be careful when you're coming from a location in your inking. You gotta make sure it flows out naturally. Good. Bit of drapery here with the cape. Okay, let's put a bit of metal texture here. Got his pants outside, man. God, man. Jerome's going for a retro. Okay, so I'm going to switch off my construction. This is what we're left with. Okay. So what must I do? What must I do? Anybody?
Save!
I'm right. So let's have a closer look. Right, so on auspicious August, what we've got is big headgear, a very kind of dominant weapon, a cape, a stance with a raised chest, and legs apart, looking as tough as possible. And that normally gives you a character that looks kind of in charge. Now I'm just looking at the volume of his body. And, looks a bit thin around the middle. Now I can merge all my inking layers. And I save. Right. And then just to finish off, we can go in, we can add, if these are jewels in the crown, we can add in these highlights like this. I didn't actually. I didn't put it, as I said, I didn't put in as much detail as I otherwise could have. There, putting some textures there. Some dodgy inking there. These lines are overshooting. God damn. Okay. Our character has no name. If anyone can think of a name for him, please get in touch with us at this entertainment group on Facebook. And that's how he's turned out. Yeah, it's good fun. Let me try and get it equal. Why can't I get it equal? That's as equal as I'm going to get it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that's the first helping of Auspicious August, where we'll be drawing characters that are big, powerful, regal looking. I'll be back here next week, same time, 1 a.m. And I'll be back here again later today at 6 p.m. with Madness Art Attack. I'm going to run a trailer for that before we go. And I hope to see you back here at 6 p.m. 6 p.m., ladies and gentlemen. Peace.
Previously on Madness Art Attack.
Madness Art Attack. Madness Art Attack. Madness Art Attack. Madness Art Attack.
New York's been quiet, too quiet. But when smoke rises, Cosmos brings the fire. GWP, yeah, we rise from the block. Guys with powers on the move, time to put smoke on lock. He running drugs, running guns, think he can't be stopped. We the mega hero squad and we taking that shot. GWP, yeah, the city gon' see. When Cosmos calls the plate, that's a whole new league. New York in the business, but we fight as a team. Guys with powers, baby, welcome to the regime. Cosmos in the sky, that's hell on the league.
Supa-Saturdays. 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 Draw-Along. Supa-Saturdays. 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 Draw-Along. I love heroes, no matter their age and no matter their size. I wanna be a hero, that's why I love to draw and I wanna create. Supa-Saturdays. 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 Draw-Along.
If you missed the live viewing of any Meg production, you can find all our content on Roku or as a member of this channel. Madness Entertainment Group.